The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. If you miss any of my episodes, you can catch me on Spotify or Apple. And you can always check out themainstreetcode.com and find out what we're all about and check on all the old episodes. Today, when we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, direction, and education. And we help hundreds of advisors across the United States with their insurance needs, whether it's life insurance, disability, annuities, and long-term care. And we work with lots of different attorneys and accountants who are seeking out our advice and attention. We're completely independent, representing over 30 different insurance companies. And, many insurance advisors use us for independent and correct advice as to what the right program is, what the right amount is, who's the right carrier, who's the right underwriting decision. And we also help you put together your financial team. So if you don't have an accountant, you don't have an attorney, we think that everybody should have their own team working on their needs and goals, that you should have all these different things, but they should all be working together to help you achieve your goals and aspirations. And today I'm very fortunate to have with me Carol Steinberg. Carol, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Carol is an accomplished writer and editor and former award-winning journalist who contributed regularly to New York Times, Success magazines, and other publications. And she is here talking about her new book coming out, or is it out?
Came out in November during National Alzheimer's Awareness Month.
Oh, it did? Oh, and the book is about?
Come Grandpa Meow, Let's Fly is about Alzheimer's disease to help children go through this journey with their families. Children are very confused, upset when they see changes in their loved one. So this is a way for them to understand the disease in age-appropriate language, and then to move on to answer the question, now what? Now what do we do with our children who see these changes in their loved one? So the book uniquely includes a collection of intergenerational activities to continue and foster the bond in new ways between the generations.
Wow, that's amazing. I just got my first edition. I thank you so much. Can't wait to read it. We talk a lot about Alzheimer's, and you have a great deal of experience with Alzheimer's. And what I'd like you to do is share with everybody, I know you've done quite a bit of work with Alzheimer's organizations in the past as well, and that helped generate the book, but it all came from a personal experience. Would you share that with us for a little bit?
Sure. My dad had Alzheimer's disease. We're talking more than 25 years ago that he passed away. I was a journalist at the time, and it was serendipity that I saw a job ad for a local Long Island Alzheimer's organization, which is now called the Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Center. And I became an executive there, and out of that organization, we started a national organization. So over the years, I really interacted with dozens, hundreds of Alzheimer's experts, but moreover, people with the disease. So I saw what the journey was like. And what I also saw was that we could have done things so differently with my dad and my mom, his heroic caregiver. And out of that, grew Come Grandpa Meow, Let's Fly, because I didn't want other families to not know what to do. Support is so important when you're going through that journey.
It's extremely important. And, my wife had a personal experience. Actually, my uncle had a situation. My wife had a situation with her father. And what people don't realize is it's more prevalent now than ever, would you say?
It's not only more prevalent now than ever. A new study just came out a few weeks ago showing that the incidence of Alzheimer's is going to double by 2060.
Wow.
42% of men and women, and more women, over the age of 55 will have some form of dementia.
Why is that?
Good question. A lot of it is because we're living longer, which is a good thing.
Right.
But at the same time, inactive lifestyles, we know that lifestyle choices contribute tremendously to Alzheimer's, as well as diabetes is a risk factor, high blood pressure is a risk factor. So all these things are contributing.
And possibly some of the medicines that these doctors are putting us on, and all these new medicines, may be a contributor as well. I would think. I don't know, but
well, I think the fact that the incidence is rising is the bad news of
Right.
Alzheimer's disease. The other bad news of Alzheimer's disease is that we're seeing more and more misdiagnosis of the disease or missed diagnosis of the disease.
Right.
But the good news is that there are some new medications out there that can help slow progression of the disease.
Right.
So it's right now we're in a very good and bad kind of situation.
Right.
There are a lot of Alzheimer's drugs in the pipeline, so hopefully that will mitigate some of the predicted damage down the road.
Right. And, the statistics I've read, and I don't know how old they are, I'm not as up on the subject as you are, was that the average person who gets dementia or Alzheimer's could live another 14 years. And what is that number, would you say?
So there are averages out there, but I've spoken to so many people with the disease who have outlived those averages.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is these people are also living life with joy. Now, it could be some of the people that I've interviewed. I'm sure there are others that are going through horrific circumstances, devastating to themselves and to their family. But I think we are seeing a trend of more and more people understanding what could help them get through this and making the healthy lifestyle choices and trying to live every day the best they can, when they can.
Right. But from a financial and an emotional standpoint, which is the area I play in, particularly the financial side, the risk factors to a family financially and emotionally are devastating, especially if it's the primary moneymaker, or even if it's not the primary moneymaker, the person has to take care of the other person, all of a sudden can affect their family financially. And intergenerationally, we talk about how it affects the whole family, which is why I'm really excited to read your book, because intergenerationally, we have so many people, let's say, in their 50s, who may have children, may be going to college, and may still have parents that are maybe in their 70s or 80s. We call it the sandwich generation, but this is real. And let's say that mom gets sick, and mom is not able to clean the house. She's missing things, and all of a sudden, typically it's a daughter, it could be a son, they take time off of work to help mom out. It hurts them, but they're also leaving their primary job, taking care of their children. Even if they're going to college, there's still a lot of care and time and things. So emotionally, it could affect financially mom, financially the caregiver, financially the children, emotionally everybody up and down the line. Another statistic that you may or may not know, being that I've been in the long-term care business since it was invented, long-term care insurance, is that over 51% of all claims today are due to cognitive, not because you fell down the stairs and broke your hips. It's more cognitive. That's the issue.
There's also a higher incidence of ER visits, hospitalizations due to cognitive impairment. So I would say, to your point, we always say that Alzheimer's is very much a family disease.
Absolutely. And, it's very important that we plan today, whether we're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Every generation has to plan for this in order to take care of their families. We're going to get more involved in this right after the break. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. And if you want to reach out to me, 631-647-4694. I encourage everybody to read Carol's book. How can they get a hold of that book, and where can they get it, Carol?
Come Grandpa Meow, Let's Fly is a children's book available on Amazon.
It's on Amazon, so they can just download it on Amazon.
They can purchase it on Amazon.
And as far as I know, this is the first book about Alzheimer's geared towards children. Is there any others, or?
There are others out there, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
What is unique about this book is that it is in 2 parts, the story about Alzheimer's disease plus a guide to intergenerational activities. I know of no other book that takes it through that next step. That's
dynamite. We're going to talk more about that right after the break. Thank you. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. We're just getting back from the break here, and you're listening to Neil Himmelstein and my guest, Carol Steinberg. Carol is an expert on Alzheimer's as well as a award-winning journalist for many years, and she's just come out with a book called Come Grandpa Meow, Let's Fly. And Carol, you were just talking a little bit about the book, and tell me the uniqueness of this book, and it's a must-read. So can you tell us a little bit more about the book?
Sure. Come Grandpa Meow is in 2 parts. The first part is what I'm calling a heartfelt story about Alzheimer's disease. It's very much based on my own family's experience. There's actually a song in there that is based on a song that my father used to sing to us and then to his granddaughters on the swing. And it really shows the changing relationship between a granddaughter and her grandfather, and how love prevails despite the changes in behavior and memory loss, etc. So it really helps ease the confusion and upset and anger that children experience when they see these changes going on. Part 2 of the book, the unique part, is intergenerational activities, which really talks about how people can still foster the bond with their loved one. It gives some examples, music, cooking, gardening, etc., that build on the themes of the book. And research does show that intergenerational activities are very important, both for children. It helps create empathy. It helps create a sense of community. It builds self-confidence. But moreover, for the person with the disease, you're still engaging them. It reduces isolation. It increases socialization. It increases dignity and respect, which is really the whole point of my book. I want people to still respect people with the disease, no matter what they're going through. They're still your grandpa, they're still your father, they're still your mother, they're still your grandmother. Absolutely.
Well, it really pulls at my heart. I remember my father-in-law doing the Tennessee Waltz with my daughter. You know, my father-in-law had very advanced Alzheimer's and would repeat the same things and, would eat and then ask, oh, gee, would you, make me a hamburger? And, it was always 3 times. I don't know why, but it seemed like it was always 3 times. He could eat 3 meals, But doing the Tennessee Waltz with my daughter, I think my daughter will never forget that. And,
That's an important memory.
It wasn't, it was just a moment in time I'll never forget, and, your book just reminds me of that moment in time.
Well, when you speak about moment in the book, I say this quite often, especially in my letter to readers, that the reason for the book is really so that people can meet in the moment. It's so important.
That. Absolutely. So, switching topics a little bit, getting back to the finances and things. I mean, as I was saying before the break, the devastation of the cost of care, the cost of being a caregiver. I frequently talk about my mother who took care of my dad. It wasn't Alzheimer's, but my mom died before my dad, and she was his caregiver, and I think that's what killed her, to be honest. But with Alzheimer's, it's even more devastating in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways I just want to interject here a little bit is when one person is handling the finances and they're the one with Alzheimer's and the other one all of a sudden has to take on that duty as well. That happened in my father did not have dementia, but for a while he was going through some of his medical stuff, my mom wasn't used to writing a checkbook or anything, or making decisions. And making decisions is a big deal, isn't it?
That's why education and support is so important for caregivers in general, but I think more so for caregivers of loved ones with Alzheimer's disease or a related dementia. When you talk about finances, there's a much greater incidence of financial scams and financial fraud and financial abuse among the Alzheimer's population.
Absolutely.
And I think we could all understand why.
Right.
Memory loss, they're more vulnerable. They don't remember that they gave to a certain charity. This just happened with the election. People were being inundated over and over again with a donation ask, and it especially hit hard in the Alzheimer's population. So I think people need to talk about it. They need to be educated. They need to get support from community organizations and from national organizations. So much information is available online. If there is financial abuse, they need to report it to the authorities to help other people. But they can be prepared in advance. They can constantly monitor their activity or have a loved one monitor their activity if they reach that point. They can, read about what scams are going on so they could be up to date. They have to understand not to, fall into computer scams that are going on right now. So it really is devastating in the Alzheimer's population when that happens. And I think most of all because the cost, as you said, of taking care of someone with Alzheimer's disease and the possibility that they might need long-term care, the finances is so important that they keep that intact.
Right. And I think you bring up an excellent point, and one that bears mind, that if you have a loved one, a sister, a brother, a parent, a child that's going through dementia and whatnot, I would definitely seek out an estate attorney or an elder attorney or one who understands special needs and start that process immediately. In handling finances, it's so important that someone else knows where things are, somewhere, not only knows where things are, can help with the financial decisions. Maybe that person might need to have some sort of guardianship or a special needs trust to take care of that person. The finances can disappear in a second, especially as you mentioned with the scams and everything else. And it's so important that things go on lockdown or there's someone else competent that you trust that's taking care of things. So important. It's one of the things you should look at right away. And, I had a situation where I met a couple and I knew immediately there was a problem. I have a funny way of knowing things. It's not funny, but, if I ask for somebody's Social Security card and they have to go and look and find it and they don't know their number, I know immediately there's a problem. And then when they disappear for 10 minutes looking for their card, it's a big problem. But if you're living with that person, you may not realize it because it comes on slowly and you get to learn who that person is and you think that's part of that person. That's a very big thing, recognizing this. Sometimes it's recognized from the outside and you don't want to admit it. And I find that's a huge issue.
So two things that I want to add to that. One is that's why early diagnosis is so important, because it allows the person with the disease to have their wishes heard, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally, talking about long-term care, etc. And they get to appoint the person that they want to handle their affairs moving on. The other point is that one of the reasons for my book that came out around the holidays is to your point that others may see it. When people get together for holiday gatherings, for example, outsiders may notice the changes in their loved one more than insiders.
Correct.
Whether because of denial or because just they're living with them every day and they don't see it.
Right. And I found that with my uncle. And I was young too, but every time I came to the door, come on in, the order's fine, and it's all your fault. And it would be the same catchphrases every time, or my father-in-law would tell me the same joke every time. Hey, Neil, I got a great joke for you. And it was the same joke every time. And I'm like, I never told him I heard it before. I laughed every time. But I knew when I was an adult what that was. I didn't know that when I was a child. That's very important, identifying and everything else. Well, you're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success, and I do want to say one thing before I go. You need to prepare for this well in advance. Once someone has Alzheimer's, your decisions are limited. Long-term care insurance, hybrid long-term care plan, these are some of the tools we use to help you prepare for the future. You need to prepare when you're 40s, not when you're 60s, when you already may have it. So that's a very important point. You've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. If you want to reach me, the best way is 631-647-4694. And I encourage you to download Carol's book or to buy it on Amazon. Carol, please tell us the name of your book and how they can get it.
Come